everyone, welcome back to Cowabunga Corner News, and right now I am sitting with Tom Waltz, and anyone who's watched our last interview knows what an awesome guy he is to be sitting with for Ninja Turtle information and just on how much he works on the comics. One of my favorite interviews I did last year, seriously. You've got so much passion that it just explodes into the book and when we're talking.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
Now, thanks again for joining us.
You're welcome.
I do have a question that I want to pick up from last time that we started talking about before the interview started, and we had so many other great things that my mind got wiped. And this question is about not part of the ongoing IDW Turtle series,
Right.
but the action figure Ninja Turtle comic book that was done for San Diego Comic-Con last year. You had so many stories like about the Turtle Van and stuff. Could you share with our viewers on how that comic came together?
You know what? That kind of came out of the blue. They wanted something for Comic-Con, and they wanted it based on the television show. And obviously, we were writing our ongoing comic, which is a completely separate world from the TV show. So, and at that point, there was no TV show to look at, per se. What we had were scripts. So we went through the scripts, and they said, we'd like you to write this, just a short little story, and if you read the scripts, you should get a really good feel for the voices and the personalities. And oh, by the way, we want you guys to do it with the toys. We'll have you doing basically I don't know what they call that, but where you take pictures, individual pictures of each opposed pictures of the toys based on the script you write. So, you know, we're team players, and I was excited, especially after I read the scripts. I mean, now everybody knows how good the show is, but we got a really early look at what it was going to be. And even then, I mean, I think I even talked about it online at one point. You saw the potential. You know, it was funny, it was exciting, and so I thought, well, this is really neat. I'd like to be a part of this, even for this little bit. Lo and behold, I find that there was a bit of a learning curve when you're writing for opposing toys. You have to be a little more specific and a little more, I think the best way to describe it is, how would I say it? I guess hinged versus unhinged, where in comics you can, you know, have explosions and all kinds of action. Well, unless you've got a $200 million special effects budget, you're not going to be able to do that with toys that you're actually posing, you know, holding them off camera with your hands and having them jump in the air and kick each other. So what happened was we wrote the script, the normal process. I went to Nickelodeon. They had suggestions, and we did our edits and got it to where everybody was happy. And the catch was going to be not only that we had to do this comic, which would be basically like an ash can that they gave away at Comic-Con, but it would also tie into a very short actual stop action scene that was the climax for the story, the conclusion. And so that meant we had to write the comic one way and the last section another way, and then try to work it out with the studios and everybody, you know, what can and can't they do as far as the stop action is concerned. But in the end, you know, it was actually a fairly smooth process, all things considered. I mean, it was last minute. Like everything at Comic-Con, every time you do something special at Comic-Con, it's usually like, we need it yesterday. And that was no exception, except for it being actually a smooth process versus that's usually chaotic and everybody's stressed out. Everybody came together, I think, in a professional way, but actually there's a lot of camaraderie. I think everybody's really excited about the potential for the show. And, you know, I think at that point the comic had kind of established itself. And so, you know, we were laying the groundwork and everybody knew they were at that ground floor. But the funniest part for me was we didn't have all the toys. They were still manufacturing these things. I think some of them were prototypes still. And so they sent us a box of toys from the studio, and we had everything except for some of the vehicles. But they wanted to sell toys, you need to show the toys. So they wanted us to write those toys into the script. And we did a little, well, I guess what you would call a dress rehearsal. And it was Bobby Curnow, my editor, and myself, with a cheap digital camera that we have here at the IDW office, just to see if, hey, what we're writing, will it work? And so we spent about 3 hours one day bending behind tables, holding these guys up, trying to make them kick each other and stand in the right spot, as you know, based on the script. driving their cardboard box turtle van because we had no vehicles. So I think we have them somewhere. I hope we kept those pictures and we can show them off later. Pictures of, Leonardo driving a little cardboard box, and my hand and Bobby's hand, and they're holding these guys up as they're kicking each other. Luckily, that was just a dress rehearsal because we were able to hire a person, and I don't recall his name, who does this professionally and has, the transparent bases and stuff where you can pose these characters. So when it was all said and done, the book looked great. I was very happy with it. It was a giveaway at the Comic-Con in 2012, and I actually have a funny story about that too. So I was excited to go see, how people were reacting to the comic because, it was something different, and it wasn't like our comics where, our names are in the front in the credits. My name was kind of written small on the inside, but that's okay because this was about, selling the brand and the toys. And I went over to the Nickelodeon booth, and the Turtles came, the folks in costumes, and huge crowd gathered, and I was right up front there with my daughter and my wife, and we were excited to, be a part of this, and I was like a proud papa. They're handing out my comic book, and I was all excited, and one of the Nickelodeon employees, I'm not sure who they were, and they would have no clue, but they came up to me and looked at me, and they said, "Sir, you're going to have to move while we get these comic books out." I started laughing because in this business, we're faceless, we're anonymous. People don't know who we are, so I'm not going to hold it against anybody. And where I was standing kind of was in the way. But the funniest thing was, as we walked away, my daughter turned back, and she was 8 at the time. She said, "But he's Tom Waltz." And I said, "Let's just go."
Don't think that most of the people at the booth would really know.
Right. And it happens all the time. Matter of fact, this year, one of my funniest moments at Comic-Con was, as an IDW editor, one of our jobs at the conventions is to go around and look for new artists and new creators. And part of that is, you go to Artist Alley, but you also go to indie press and small press because there's, you never know what you're going to find there. And I had a... I don't know if I had my Turtles hat on, a baseball hat, or I had something Turtles on. And as I was walking by one booth, one of the creators said, "Hey, you like the Turtles?" And I said, "Yeah, you could say that." And he goes, "Oh man, you should be reading the new comic book. It's really good." And he just happened to have a copy in his hand. He said, "Have you ever read it?" And I said, "Actually, I wrote it." And then he said, "Wait, who are you?" And I told him my name. And then it turned into me, signing the book. But again, it was just further proof that nobody knows who you are in comics. We are the anonymous, quote unquote, celebrities, for lack of a better term.
There's been a lot that's happened in the comic book in the last year. And I have been sitting on the edge of my seat, just like last time, reading as these come out, what you guys did with the Krang Wars, and now what's going on with Leonardo and City Fall.
Right.
You keep blowing me away with your stories. Is there anything that has been done or led up to that you're especially proud of that's happened in the comics that you can talk about right now?
For me right now, what I like the most is that from the very beginning, we were very concerned about this being a family book, and I don't mean that in the sense like it's an all-age comic and the whole family community, but that the story centers around family, that's always the core theme. And what I like, what's really worked out well for us is I think we've been able to do that, but not only within the Turtles family, but within other families, these ancillary characters, like, we've got Shredder with his granddaughter, great-great-great-great-granddaughter, Karai, but we've even got stories with Krang and his father. We've got Casey and his father, and I think even Alapex, what we find out in the Lynch one-shot is that, she has family issues too. Before she was mutated, she had a family, and she lost that family, and in a horrific way. And I like the fact that despite all the action, because this is a ninja comic, so you have to have ninja action and the sci-fi elements and all the fantastic stuff. We've never lost sight of our initial plan, which was to have a story about a family. Because I think I always look at it this way: the powers and all that, that's just part of the setting. The abilities to fight with a sword and jump off a roof or whatever these characters can do. That's cool visually. It's exciting and titillating, and everybody likes to see that stuff in comics. And it wouldn't be a true comic without those elements. But I think what keeps people coming back, I think what people always can relate to is just this family dynamic, and we cover it all from functional to dysfunctional, and there's a lot of dysfunctionality within these different families. But I think what you find is that even if you consider your family dysfunctional or you have issues within the family unit, it doesn't mean that it's a failed family. And I think we see that in this story because these families have these problems, but they continue to stay together. And I think that's kind of indication of what I'm saying I'm proud of, is that we've kept the comic book together. That's kept this comic book together, because we could easily go off on these gamuts away from the that core element and have it being too fantastic and having it be too sci-fi or too action oriented. And I
Good versus evil.
Absolutely, and I think that gets, for me personally, if it goes in that direction, I think most fans will say this, it would get boring.
Yeah.
And that, I think that makes it predictable. But a dysfunctional family, the only thing that's predictable is that there's probably going to be some drama. But what will that drama be? And that's what we're learning along the way.
Which is really shown wonderful through issue 25, as we get to see Casey's dad finally stepping up saying, I'm going to change.
Right.
And then Don and Mike saying, Raph, pull together
Right.
and be a part of this team.
Yeah.
You guys have really made this something for the fans to be excited about, because the character growth as well there.
I wish I could take all the credit for that, but I never would, because the other thing that I've been, I think, the most ecstatic about is that we have this team. It starts with Bobby Curnow as editor, and we got Kevin, myself, and our great artists, and Rhonda, who's been kind of the linchpin as the colorist throughout this thing. She's been a superstar from the beginning. The folks at Nickelodeon that we work with, Kat and Joan. It's just been, I feel like we're almost like that family. We have our own dysfunctionalities and we have our own dramas, but we've stuck together from the beginning until now, and it's just been this collective, this group vision that has been able to sustain itself with all these different personalities. We all wanted something from the beginning, and we continue to strive for that together. We don't always agree, but there's times where we agree to disagree, and there's times where we all have to compromise. Each of us takes a turn kind of giving in, and at other times we take turns bullying the others and saying, no, this is what I want, and this is why, and then letting the others, hopefully come around to your opinion and your vision, and it's been great. It's been a wonderful experience, and every month it's something new. Every month it's a new challenge. But it's always, with the common goal in sight. And I think, I've said this at panels, at the conventions and stuff. We've got a long vision for the story. We know what we want to do. We already know what we want to do in issue 50. There's certain specifics that we want to happen along the way, but there's also generalities that we discuss that are open to change and modification. And that also evolves from having these great, I guess like you would call guest creators who are working on these one-shots, these micro-series. They bring, let's say you have like a really good chili dog, but it makes it even better when you get that spicy mustard on top. Those guys with the spicy mustard, they just add something to it, and it really changes the dynamic, and we feed off of them, and I think they feed off of us. We have proposals and plots and stuff that we give to them, but they don't always follow it rote. They just say, they'll look at it and they'll say, what about this? And 9 times out of 10, that what about this is something we like, and we say, yes, let's do that. And then that again, we kind of hit a fork in the road at that point where, well, we were planning on going this way with the ongoing, but because guest artist A did this in their one shot, we have to go in this direction because it's just so much better.
In the last year, did anything throw a fork in that really stands out of a big change that was not going to originally happen?
Wow. I think Brian's story, the Alapec story, really created an important plot element to City Fall, which has yet to reveal itself. So that's about as spoilerific as I can get there. But also, I think Bobby had an idea about Casey's dad. We had ideas for his dad, but then he took it one step further. And when we talked about it, it was something that we couldn't. Once it was out, it was out. That was the reality, and it wasn't the reality before that. And Bobby said, "What about this with Casey's dad?" And it's when you hear it and you know that's right. That was one of those moments. So I think certain things that changed that are worth mentioning are maybe Alapex's story, Casey's dad's story, certain aspects to the Dark Leo transformation. I think those kind of evolved during the process. Early on, the issue where he's brainwashed, I think that was issue 23 or 22, I can't remember. That issue probably went through 10 rewrites, and mainly in the brainwashing sequence, because what I initially wanted to do wasn't this is a perfect example of where I needed somebody to kind of smack me around a little bit, because I had a vision and it kept getting kicked back from Nickelodeon, and I was getting frustrated at one point because I couldn't understand why they weren't getting what I was trying to do. And then it took me to I think one of those moments where you have to just step back. I pushed it away and I stepped back, and I was sitting there by myself, and I thought, what am I not getting across? And then instead of worrying about what they weren't getting, I started concentrating on their questions. And once I saw the pattern in their questions, I realized what was missing, and they were right. They were absolutely right. I was close, but I wasn't there. And that's what they were saying. You're close, but there's just one thing missing. And once I realized what that was, it all came together after that. And then that actually, I think, made it easier to write the remainder of the City Fall arc. Because I think the direction I was going it probably would have worked in its own way, but not as well, and it would have made things a little more complicated.
What was missing?
I think for me it was that we were kind of looking at Leo as being brainwashed into believing Shredder was his father. And that's where I was going, that he was taking on like this father figure type persona in those dreams that he was having, and the brainwashing dream. I call them the fever dreams or the kitsune dreams. And what was happening was, it was kind of like saying, oh, well, Splinter's not your father, I'm your father. And it wasn't working with everybody. And, in my mind, I was thinking, this makes sense. But deep down, I just wasn't relaying that well enough. It was one of those things where, why would he think of Shredder? Why would Shredder even want to be a father? He doesn't care. He doesn't even care about being a grandfather. He just wants to be the master. And that's what it was. One day I said, it was a simple change of, instead of him saying, I'm your father, which is very Darth Vader-esque, I guess. Yeah. He was saying, I'm your master, and this is why I'm your master. Or this is why you should want me as a master. And then the story, it really changed at that point. And basically what he was saying is, the mastery that you follow now is weak, and I'm strong, and through strength is security and safety. And it's everybody's
look
right
at
right
all
now.
this bad stuff that's happening.
Look at all this bad stuff and all the lies you've been told. Because if it's almost like Leo, like me, has to step back and look at it, and that's what the brainwashing said. Look at this whole thing. You've been in the middle of the action, but if you step back and look at it, you almost got killed here, and you guys almost died here because you were too afraid to take action. And I'm not afraid to take action. Also there's arcane elements. I mean, sometimes the fans kind of fight about it online and complain, but there is a point where you have to kind of give in to the fact that it's comics, and we can't show everything, and not everything is going to make 100% logical sense. But this is where the fantastic elements, I hope people are happy with, and that's where I'm saying. And remember, this is a witch from feudal Japan who's been resurrected, who can turn into a fox. She might have the ability to kind of mess up with people's minds a little bit. And so, I mean, MTV does it to kids all the time. Why can't a witch? And so we saw that this week at the Video Awards, right? So what I'm I'm hoping for is that, you know, my revelation based on their questions and their critiques, you know, which led to the changes, works for the fans as well. But not only did that work just for that moment, then it really changed the outcome of City Fall, which I won't give away, but it really changes Splinter. And this will not only take effect here in City Fall, we'll see that in Northampton. I know fans right now, I was reading online, and they're like, wow, who cares about Dark Leo, because we all know after City Fall and they go to Northampton, he's back to normal and everything's back to normal, but it's not.
No.
It won't be, and it won't ever be. This is a game changer for a lot of the characters. Does that mean Leo will stay evil forever? You know, that's doubtful. Why would we want to do that? But does that mean Dark Leo is completely gone? Not necessarily. You know, but it also will have a very, very profound impact on Splinter, and which will lead to something that happens in issue 50. So if that's not long view thinking, then I don't know what is.
4-kid series. There was an episode, Same as It Never Was, where Donatello's thrown into this alternate future where he watches his brothers die in front of him.
That's my daughter's. She loves that episode. We watch it a lot.
Fantastic episode. But he comes home and there's no changes besides for his initial reaction seeing his brothers alive.
Right.
There's no nightmares from this. There's no discussion with Splinter. I wanted to see an episode where they have Don confronting this, and it never happened. So to know that we're going to get that with Leonardo in this, I'm even more excited now.
Well, and if you think about it, that's a good point, because the way we're approaching it and the way I see it, as far as from Leo's point of view, yeah, he's brainwashed, and Leo's the loyal son, and he is kind of, like we always describe him, kind of our Cyclops, the straight and narrow. But you can't, I always feel like with hypnosis, you're not going to be able to do this to somebody unless they're not willing, you know.
Yeah.
And so I kind of look at it as, you know, the brainwashing has taken Leo to this, you know, dark extreme, but somewhere in there, he had to be in agreement with what he was being shown. There had to be that niggling doubt that, you know, maybe we are going about this wrong. Maybe this is not the way we should be. Maybe, you know, maybe we are weaker than we need to be. And so that has to carry over. So whether Leo's cured or not, I don't think there's ever going to be this complete separation from what he's been shown. He won't be able to forget what he's been shown. How he approaches it and deals with it later may change than, you know, being this dark ninja that he is. But it's almost like we're almost deliberately making Leo, well, we are making Leo a bit one-dimensional right now as far as being the dark Leo is concerned. And you see that like in the Karai where he's being rude to, or in the Karai one shot where he's being rude to her, and in the ongoing, because he doesn't know how to be this thing. So who is he following? He's looking up to Shredder. You know, so, well, Shredder's mean to Karai, therefore I should be mean to Karai, because he's more nuanced than they need him to be here. So he's almost faking it. Even though he's been brainwashed, the very fact that he's been brainwashed shows that he's doing something that doesn't come natural to him. And it should come off as awkward. And you read 25 today.
Yeah.
There's going to be something that we bring back that people probably thought we forgot about, that will be the thing, the catalyst for him to start realizing, I'm not where I'm supposed to be. And I don't know, you may have to go back and read it, but there's a panel there where he stops. He sees something, a memory, and that memory, that's just the first of many of these flashbacks that are coming from, you know, readers will find out. Eventually.
I'm catching on to that.
It's showing Leo that you are not where you're supposed to be, and you are not who you are supposed to be right now. That being said, when all is said and done, and we move on to Northampton, I think Leo's going to have to deal with both the pros and cons of being Dark Leo. And there are some pros to it.
Leo's glance. I sat down and stared at that page for a little bit going, oh, that's that was a nice little twist there, and that showed that something's going to...
Exactly. And again, it's I think one of those things where, as you know, that has... a huge family element to it, you know, and so it's got to be ours, and that's how I look at it, because if we did what everybody else did before us, that's theirs, and and they did it great. So why would we want to do what's already been done so well? Kevin doesn't want to be Kevin Eastman in 1984. Kevin wants to be Kevin Eastman 2013. And we want this to be, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 2013, because what they did with the Mirage and Archie and Image and all the TV shows and stuff, that was theirs, and those worked all fine. Those are great, and those are their own thing that don't need to be, regurgitated. It just I like to take elements from those things, but it's no different. I said this in the panel recently. To me, cherry picking from the past is the same exact thing we're cherry picking in the present, and that means, hey, Eric Burnham writes this fantastic Karai one shot. He comes up with this fantastic idea, for certain characters that have worked along Karai since she was a daughter or a small girl. Well, we want that. We want that in the ongoing.
Yeah.
That was never planned for the ongoing, but Eric gave us a piece that we want to put into this puzzle we're putting together. And so we're not just, looking at Mirage and Archie's. We're looking at what's around us right now. And it's what I think makes us unique, but it also is something that I guess ties us again to this core Turtles, I don't know, how would you describe, like mythos, that makes people comfortable, I think, coming into our world. But it doesn't, in my opinion, take away from that world. It maybe celebrates those worlds in different ways, but we never want to overshadow or replace, because we can't, and we don't look at it that way. But we don't also, like you said, a lot of fans will say, well, they did this before, so why aren't you doing it now? And I always feel like, we do reprint all those comics, and if you want that,
it's still there.
You can get it.
It's still there.
But why would you spend money to get it there and then spend more money to get it here? And you're basically getting the same exact thing. I guess me personally, if I'm spending money, I want to get something new every time.
You guys have really made this fun, action, and very suspenseful, because we're sitting here going, when's the next issue?
Thanks. And I think one thing that really stands out, and it's frustrating for fans and even us sometimes, but it's just the nature of the business now. When Kevin and Peter were doing it way back when, they were telling these long stories. I mean, they were 38 pages, 40 pages, or whatever. You can get a lot. That's basically 2 issues now, and so it wasn't as serialized back then. It wasn't a monthly thing where you got 20 to 22 pages, to keep the story rolling forward, but keep people interested. So it's kind of a catch-22 where it does keep it suspenseful. We always try to end on a cool cliffhanger, keep people coming back for more, but at the same time, that wait for the month, not just for. Sometimes I think it's probably more frustrating for us than the fans, because they want to read it, but we know what's going to happen, and it's hard for us not to shout it out. Don't worry, because this is what's going to happen. So and I see people saying, "Oh, I can't wait," or "Oh, they messed this up. They did this, and now it's ruined for me." When you're thinking, "No, we didn't do that. That's going to be rectified next issue," but we can't say anything. And then the next issue comes, I go, "Oh, phew." They came through for us again. And I always want to go on there, and I think I'm just going to comment and say, please just trust us. We're trying really hard, and we're gonna try to give you what you want every month. But sometimes there is going to be that month-long wait, and I think maybe that's why. Not only are they done fantastically, but those micro series are popular because they're nice. It's just nice to have that filler
extra story.
Yeah. And one thing. And this is to Bobby's credit, because he's got to organize all this. And, he's not only doing, our ongoing, he's in charge of all the Turtle stuff. So that includes animated series and all those things that we're doing. And he has been, just wonderful in finding a way to keeping this all organized. Not only the ongoing, but the micro series, and not only keeping them rolling forward, but making them all coalesce. Everything that happens in these micro-series ties into this continuity that we're creating the ongoing. Do you have to read them? No. I always suggest it, not only because, you get more of our story, but you're also getting great stories from other creators. But if you do read them, then you do get the 100% of the story we're trying to tell right now. And it's just, it's a lot of fun.
And the character growth.
Yeah. And again, it's like I said, we only have 22 pages a month. And we would have had to tell Karai's story the way Eric told it. We would have had to have a whole issue that was based on Karai within the ongoing, and then fans of Leonardo and even Casey and April and all the other characters, they would be saying, "Oh man, we got robbed this month because all we got was Karai." And this gives us the opportunity to really give those in-depth character portrayals, on their own, given the attention they deserve, without spoiling the inertia and momentum that we have in the ongoing.
Yeah.
And that's because the ongoing is where you need to show that ensemble cast. You need to spend a little time with everybody. And we have a lot of characters already, and there's more coming. So it's
waiting.
That is one of the biggest challenges every month is you have to kind of sit down and say, we have all these characters, and somehow, some way, I've got to touch base with them. And again, this is where we see that can be difficult sometimes. Cityfall has obviously revolved around the city and Shredder and the ninjas and the Savate, but you don't get to see a lot of Baxter Stockman or Krang right now, which will have something that will make up for that eventually, another series. And then, we will come back around to them because we haven't forgotten about Burno Island, and we obviously haven't forgotten about Technodrome. The Turtles have more immediate problems at the moment, but that's a bigger issue that needs to be dealt with as well. But again, it does show you how with serialized comics, you only have so much room, and hard decisions have to be made when you're creating that, that say, you're going to have to stand to the sidelines just for a little bit while we focus on these guys.
Have you guys thought about doing another micro series for the good, recapping some of those characters to catch up?
We talked about that, and we've also talked about, we had a lot of success with Secret History of the Foot Clan.
Yeah.
So, maybe doing what we call standalone miniseries. So something that would maybe, look at like a Krang, but give them a full miniseries of their own like that. Look at the Utroms or down the line we have plans for some characters we haven't seen yet that are also cherry picked from the past. And I think it's just a matter of what works and what doesn't. You worry about oversaturating the market too.
Yeah.
You don't want to have too much turtle stuff out there, and then people are feel inundated. Because I always think that's one of those things where folks will say, "Oh, we want more. Wish we could do this weekly." But if we were doing it weekly, it would get expensive. And,
a little too expensive, people.
and we understand that, and it would be tough for us because there's just no way especially
Creative
artists
team
could keep up with that. There's just no way. It would have to be different writers and artists, and then it becomes this organizational nightmare that we don't want to deal with, because right now we kind of have harmony within the ranks, and we'd like to keep that.
I'm good with that, especially with all the covers, and I am a collector who gets a lot of covers, and then I go out and buy the graphic novels, and some of them are like $50, and you're sitting there going, "Oh, the works looks great."
Yeah.
I love flipping it over and reading. If you're reading this, your pizza's upside down. That is fantastic.
Yeah. Our limited folks and our trade folks have just hit home run after home run with our hardcover collections and our trade collections. Our production folks just have fantastic designs, and I'm excited to see them all the time. The Pizza Box book made me just crack up because I thought it was so great, and it seemed like such a no-brainer when you saw it, but it wasn't. That took some skill and some creative insight to put it together. And once you saw it, you said, "This is so cool because it's just so right. It's so natural for these characters and the stories being told." And more of that stuff coming. We got some cool limited stuff coming. Kevin and I are talking about another annual that he's plotting, and I'll probably script, and that's going to be exciting. And we've always got a million ideas, and it's just a matter of harnessing the right ones at the right time. So I think you'll see. I wouldn't be surprised if we go back in the micro series side and revisit characters. You've got Alapex's origin now. Here's an Alapex story. You've got Karai's origin. Now here's a Karai adventure, and I think those are opportunities to both tell cool stories, but like you said, flesh out the characters even more and give them some breathing room outside of the ongoing where everything's breathless all the time. Just go, go, go. We got to keep the story moving. You know, if we don't have the story moving forward, then people jump off. You know, so I think that forward momentum is good for the series. It keeps people coming back, keeps them wanting more. And I think if we took one of those asides, you know, it may be the kind of thing that halts that inertia, and we don't want that.
The storyline I'm interested in, and I'm not always jumping at this because most areas overdo him, is Michelangelo's, but it feels like I get breadcrumbs in what's going on. You know, he's been hurt with Woody disappearing. Now he's making friends with Slash, and I'm sitting here going, this is cool stuff. I want to see a little bit more, and his story fleshed out some. Yep. And I really loved Mikey stepping up against Raph.
Yeah.
That was, whoa!
And that was, you know, we saw a little bit of that early on, way back when Dan Duncan was still drawing, and they first met April, and they were riding in her van, and they were all arguing, and he was upset. But at that point, he came off more the way we wanted him to. Was he wasn't afraid to shout, but he was hungry, he was scared. Where are we going? This is when they had lost Splinter to Hob, and you know, he kind of, you know, made himself known then, but this time it's a little more aggressive, as you see, and I think it was needed at that moment. It was an important moment for Mikey, but also for the Turtles, because things were all. He's probably the last person you expect to bring order out of the chaos, and he does that at that moment.
I really think what I saw in issue 25 was so well written, so well drawn, that it popped. And I loved it. So you guys, once again, hit out of the ballpark.
Thanks. And again, that a lot of credit has to go to Mateus on that, because this is a visual medium, and he does such a good job of with the Turtles drawing their personalities and their facial expressions, their emotions, and he does a good job not only of showing the happy-go-lucky Mikey, but when Mikey gets angry at that moment, it would be like you and me if we were Raph and Donnie saying, what the heck, who's this guy? You know, because he looked like an angry turtle at that point, which you don't normally see from him. And as far as Mikey's concerned, that's just the start, because what happens in 26 and 27 with Mikey are moments that we're really excited about. So Mikey steps up in hopefully what is a unique, cool way to help with this situation. You know, everybody has a part to play. That's kind of the result of the argument, is that they realize we can't fight, we need to come up with a plan. If Leo was always the guy with the plan, well, Leo's not here, so it's our turn to come up with a plan. So that's kind of the result of the argument in 25, and then in 26 and 27, you see each person, you know, fulfilling their role in this plan that they've come up with together. But
I can't wait to read these.
And you get to see Mikey use his brain, you know, use his street smarts in a way that I hope surprises people.
So intelligent that people don't always give him credit.
And I think it's one of those things where with Mikey, he's such a great storytelling tool, because he is that person. If Mikey's not complaining, then most likely everything's okay. You know, if Mikey's happy-go-lucky, genuinely happy-go-lucky, then we're probably going in the right direction. But like you said, if Mikey's stepping out of that box, then it's time to pay attention, because it would take a lot for him to, you know, step up like that and shout angrily and you know, almost be aggressive in his own way. And I think that's where he's so beneficial to a writer, when you need that person that says, how are we going to resolve this? Let's get Mikey mad, you know, and we find a way to do that naturally, and so far it's worked out. But I think what happens the next two issues are going to be a lot of fun. I'm really excited. I can't wait to see Mateus draw it. I've seen some of it, and it's going to be really cool.
It's really built up to the snap, though, with Woody, and then when they thought that Leo killed Slash, you know, it built up to this.
Yeah. Talking about planning, we've got plans for Slash. You know, he's the kind of this brutish, you know, mutant right now. That might not necessarily always be that way, but these are things that, you know, will come to pass in future arcs. But we don't. If we bring these characters in, one thing we promised ourselves is, if we bring characters in, then we need to see them through. We need to see them through the story. They just can't be
A one-time
window
appearance.
dressing and So everybody has to matter. And that's I've always liked to write that way in any comic I've written in the past or any story. Is to me is if I'm going to include this character, then they have to matter. You know, it can't just be in now and gone. A faceless savant or a guard, a security guard, that's different. But if you're bringing in somebody that interacts with the main cast to any extensive amount, then they have to matter, and we have to resolve their story. We have to take it somewhere. And so we're going to do that with Slash, Hobb, obviously Krang and Stockman, who's probably my favorite one to write. I can't wait to get back to him. He's got a huge story that's going to take place. But other people like Kitsune and Alapex and all those characters, we've got big plans for them. They won't happen immediately. They'll happen as time passes.
Showing through the cracks.
Yeah.
You see Kitsune getting mad at Shredder with some of his responses lately towards her even, and then it's just we're watching each character give the looks or getting the foot is building its own little web that's about to explode on themselves.
Yeah. And I think,
I'm excited.
And we're trying to we throw out, I guess what you would call red flags or red herrings, whatever the term is. But we're hoping people are going to think one thing's going to happen and then the opposite does. But that again has just to reveal itself as the story progresses. But like the biggest thing with Kitsune is I always, from the first time I saw her, and that was Mateus came up with her, and then worked with Eric Burnham in the Secret History of the Foot Clan. I was in love with her right away because I like this idea that, she's with Shredder, but when he was, Rokosaki, she basically manipulated him. She was a manipulator. And so she's not all that she seems, and I like that. And that, again, it's something that you can really use to your advantage as a storyteller. That you have, I like that she's so unpredictable, even to me. Again, she's one that I have certain specific ideas, but there's other generalities that kind of evolve as the story progresses. Where I'm thinking, and with Bobby right alongside me, what if we do this with her? And then we're like, yeah, we hadn't thought of that before, but now that we thought about it, let's do it. And that's happened with her a lot, and not just in this current story arc, but for our future plans.
I gotta thank you guys a lot for giving us a story this thrilling, this exciting. I don't want to take up all day, and I know we can go on talking. We're good at that.
That's right.
As proved in the last interview. Check out the 3 parts. It's an hour and a half long, but what he has to say, it's worth watching the full interview.
Oh, thanks.
I do want to ask a little bit on other projects. Is there anything else like Kiss Kids or something you'd like to promote to our viewers?
Actually, Kiss Kids is a book I'm co-writing with our Chief Creative Officer and Editor-in-Chief, Chris Ryall, and it's being drawn beautifully by an artist named Jose Holder with colorist extraordinaire Jeremy Caldwell, and the first issue just came out last week. And
it's good.
It's kind of like if you think of Kiss, but if they were like what's the Tiny Toons or Tiny Titans or whatever, it's just basically the Kiss gang as little kids, and we try to tell kind of comic strip type adventure tales. Some of them are 2 pages, some are longer, 5 pages, but we just have them in this little make-believe neighborhood, and they're just being kids, and they're with different antics that you would expect little boys to take part in. Except for in this case, one can breathe fire, one can create a black hole with a piece of chalk. They still have their powers.
One has a dangerous set of shoes.
That's dangerous. Yeah. Boots that eat the other boots because they come alive. But this was something that, we've done some Kiss comics in the past. We worked with Gene Simmons and Paul Stanley for a while now. That the idea came from my retailer in town here. He said, hey, I really like your Kiss comics, and this is Robert Scott at Kamikaze in San Diego, but he said, it would be cool if you guys did like a book with Kiss as little kids, kind of like Tiny Titans. And bing, that little light went off in my head, and it was a great idea, so all credit to Robert for the idea. I brought it back to Chris and said, look, Robert and I were talking about this, what do you think? And from that point on, we were absolutely in love with the idea. And so then it was just a matter of, getting Kiss on board, which wasn't hard at all. They thought it was a great idea, but, people, contrary to popular belief, they don't just throw their name on everything to try to make a buck. There's a process, you know. They'll put the KISS brand out there on different licenses and different products, but it better be something that they are happy with and worthwhile. So we went through a whole design process. We brought Jose in, and he just killed with his early designs. The Gene and Paul were in love with it. Matter of fact, Paul was so involved, he actually made his own design modifications on Jose's art and said, this is how I want, his character is called the Star Child. He goes, this is how I want Star Child to look. So he changed the hair a little bit and gave him a little gap tooth. And so if people think they're not involved, they're wrong. He actually got in there with pen and ink and made some changes. And then Chris and I just sat down and said, let's write some stories, and they've been a blast. And luckily, you know, we were a little worried because we didn't know how people would react, because they would thought, oh, who cares about, you know, these old rockers as little kids. And the reception has been great. People have really liked it. We've been well reviewed, and I think again it was just like with Turtles, people just needed to see it, to see what it was and not assume what it was going to be. And so, you know, we just sent number 2 to the press this week, to the printers, and we're working hard on number 3 right now, and it's planned to be a 4-issue mini, but who knows, maybe it'll be an ongoing depending on, you know, how the sales go. But yeah, it's definitely, if any book is all ages, this is definitely all ages. I mean, we go out of our way to make sure anybody can read this. This isn't PG-13. I mean, if it's anything, it's maybe, you know, heavy G or light PG. I don't know what you would describe it as. There's a lot of in-jokes for KISS fans, you know, so they go to Casablanca Elementary School, and KISS's original record label was Casablanca. You know, the school is, their longtime manager is named Doc McGee, so the school they go to is the home of the fighting McGees. You know, so we've got all kinds of little in-jokes in there, and most of the stories are based on song titles, but even if you're not a KISS fan, I think you'll get something out of it. It's hopefully a lot of fun, and just for the artwork. I mean, these guys are just fantastic together, Jose and Jeremy. Otherwise, I'm actually excited. I'm working on, finally, with my longtime creative partner, Casey Maloney. I worked with him in the past. My first creator-owned series was called Children of the Grave, and he was the artist. He and I have worked together on Zipper for the Gene Simmons comic line. He's done other work for me where I was the editor. We are finally putting together a project we've had in the work for 10 years, maybe more, called The Last Fall, which is I guess what you call like a sci-fi military drama. You know, something like, I guess if you had to throw it into a niche or a genre, it'd be like the Tom Cruise movie Oblivion, that style, that type of story. Halo, I guess, is a video game. But this is a story that we've talked about and worked on, you know, in the background for many years. Finally, it's something that we're trying to put together and should come out through IDW. I'm really excited about that. It'll probably be in 2014 because if we've waited this long, we'll wait a little longer to make sure it's done right. But
yeah,
Casey's a great artist. I've worked with him many years. Good friend of mine, and I'm hoping this is truly a creative enterprise as far as the artist and the writer being equally involved. You know, this is just as much Casey's story as mine, and I like to think that I have just as much input into his art as his actual, you know, own designs. This is a coming together of two guys with a common vision that, you know, is exciting. That's, I think, what makes it the most exciting. Is it's just something that we're passionate about, and I think, as frustrated as we were over the years of not getting to it, it feels like we're getting to it when we needed to, when we were supposed to. So I'm hoping that makes it a good book, but it's going to be called The Last Fall. And hopefully next year, hopefully in 2014, and maybe we'll be announcing it earlier. And then, you know, I edit a lot of books. I always tell people my baby is Ghostbusters. As an editor, my Ghostbusters series is one I'm very proud of. One of our Turtle writers, Eric Burnham, writes that. Artist is Dan Schoening. Colorist is Luis Antonio Delgado. And I truly think if I was ever going to recommend a book to our Turtle fans to try, it would be our Ghostbusters book. It just has that same, I think it has that same nostalgic feel, and it's true to the Ghostbusters mythos and history, but being told in a whole new way. The art is fantastic, and And as all the Turtles fans know, Eric is a great writer. And if he just shines on Ghostbusters, and we're already into our second volume. I think this is like we started just around the same time Turtles started, so it's got to be like around our 24th or 25th issue now, and it's going strong. So,
sounds good. And a lot of us Turtle fans are Ghostbuster fans.
Yeah, and it's a really good book. It's a really good book. We always talk about crossing over Turtles and Ghostbusters someday. I don't know if that'll ever happen. I'd love it to.
I want to see that happen.
Yeah. But if it does, I think it would be Eric and I heavily involved in that, and that's kind of a dream project for us that we always hint at. We'll see if we can get it together someday.
Once again, loved everything going on with the comics and seeing things over at San Diego. And
yeah. Let's not forget, this will be old news by the time this comes out, but the video game comes out tomorrow too, and the Turtles was Out of the Shadows, and I think that launches tomorrow. And a good friend of mine named Jason Henderson, who's a great writer, look his name up and find some great books. He wrote the script for that video game, so that's got me excited. I'm going to be the first one downloading that tomorrow. I think it's going to come off the PlayStation Network or whatever. I'm going to be on there grabbing that tomorrow, so it's a great time for Turtles.
Seems we've caught up through what's going on with Turtles right now, and wow. I do have to say I love the new neutrinos too.
Yeah. Oh yeah. You know what? And that for me was exciting how it worked out, because I first saw the neutrinos watching the episode, the Hot Rodding Teenagers episode from was it Hot Rodding Teenagers from Dimension X, I think it was called.
Yeah.
And I remember watching it with my son when he was small, and then again with my young daughter. And every time I watched it, I always laughed. It was always corny, but I always thought there's something really fascinating about this idea that there's this planet that's in just constant war, and that there's a certain group that is basically, I mean, it's happening all over the world, that doesn't want to be part of this war that's seems to be endless and eternal. And so that alone made them interesting. I mean, that they were saying "Daddy-O" and driving, this hot rod through the sky.
We're not cool. We're frozen.
That's right. That's all part of the whole, the Fred Wolf fun. But I felt like there was something to be done with those characters. I think there was enough there where I said I'd love to put them in kind of a more serious context someday, but not totally, take away from what they were, the haircuts and all that. I thought that was part of the fun, and Brian did such a good job with that, and
he did.
And it's something I'm really extremely happy with the way it turned out, because that could have potentially been, I guess, a disaster in a more serious toned comic like ours, but he found a way to keep it fun, but keep it edgy at the same time, and we have not seen the last neutrinos either.
I can't wait till we can catch up with more new material to discuss, because
maybe we'll talk in post Northampton next time.
I love Northampton personally, so the Turtles going there, I visit Northampton a lot.
Oh, yeah, even that's going to be, again, we've cherry picked the idea. Obviously that's a pretty famous story in the Kevin and Peter days, but in back in Mirage Comics, but it won't be the same. So
good.
It's something that we wanted to do because it just was the next logical step after everything that happens in City Fall, and at the same time it was kind of an ode to such a wonderful story from the past, but again with our own twists.
There's anything you'd like to say to the fans that you didn't get to say last year, or that's come up?
Just want to say thank you. Thank you for continuing to support us. Thank you for continuing to read the books. We're nothing without you guys, and we are you guys, because we're fans first. And if you think you're excited, please know we are excited alongside you. It's something that every month we can't wait to get into, to create, but at the same time we can't wait to share. And I think the best part of all this, the most fun I'm having, is kind of getting away from my creative seat and sitting in my fan seat right alongside everybody else and discussing what we're doing, because not only does it help us, I'm hoping become better creators. It keeps us real, and I think it keeps it again kind of a family book. And in the Turtles universe, the biggest family is the fans, and we're right there with you. And stick with us. We have a lot more fun planned, and I'm hoping that the best is yet to come. Thanks.
I'm sure we'll see a lot more good stuff. There's some things that'll be hard to top.
We'll
You
try.
guys got some good things in there. So thank you everyone for tuning in and watching Cowabunga Corner News. We will catch you next time here on Cowabunga Corner.